Well, good afternoon, everybody. Donovan Long here, joining you live from the Wisconsin Live Desk in for Carl Deffenbaugh this afternoon. If you're just now joining us, maybe new to what we call WILD, standing for Wisconsin Live Desk, this is our real-time interactive way of disseminating information to you with regard to what's happening around not only our community, but what's happening around the state of Wisconsin, the country, and even internationally. We have so much we want to unpack this morning, everything from talking about what's going on with the devastation in Texas and in North Carolina to what's happening on Capitol Hill, inside the White House, and of course what's happening right here in our own community. But I want to begin with a check of what's happening in Waukesha County. That's where we find our Brett Lemoyne, who is talking about how folks there are trying to get more bus drivers on the force. I almost said good morning. Good afternoon, Brett. How are you, buddy?
Yes. Hi, Donovan. Good to talk to you again. Yes, you know, I know we're still in summer, right? Summer is still fresh in our minds, but we're also thinking ahead to fall. And First Student Bus Company here in Waukesha, they are trying to be proactive and recruit more bus drivers so they don't repeat an incident that happened here in Waukesha just 2 years ago. You'll recall fall of 2023, they started the school year without drivers for 9 bus routes. Last year, they had an event called Big Bus, No Big Deal. They're having that same event this week, Thursday, here at Waukesha North High School. Basically, you get to test drive a bus and find out for yourself that it is, in fact, no big deal to drive a school bus. So you know what we're going to do, Donovan? Something I've never done before. I'm going to drive a school bus. I'm driving a school bus.
You ready for this?
I have to wear, these are prescription. Just so you know, these are prescription. This is Chloe Reese. She is a lovely bus driver with First Student. If my son rode a school bus, I would want you behind the wheel because she is so patient and she's attentive, and she is going to teach me how to drive this bus. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
This may be your biggest challenge ever, Chloe. All right, let's go on board here. Donovan, I already adjusted the seat. You don't have to ask. I pulled it up as high as we could get it here.
You look good behind the
Chloe
wheel.
Was pointing out. Well, thank you. Thank you, Donovan. Chloe was pointing out that you've got, how many mirrors are here? This is 7 mirrors. So we've already went through and adjusted all of them because it's important to make sure that you know your surroundings, right? So I can see the end of the bus, I can see the tires, right? Make sure that we're good there. I can see all of my blind spots here. It's actually a better view. You know, I drive, Donovan, a Toyota Yaris.
Okay.
2007 Toyota Yaris. It's this big.
So you're sitting much
It's
higher.
literally this big. This is probably like 8 times the size of my personal car. So we're gonna give this a whirl. All right, now seatbelt, right? I wear a seatbelt. I know famously children on school buses don't have to wear a seatbelt, but I do.
I don't blame you. Me too, brother.
All right.
You look like you're a little nervous there, Brett. Can you handle this?
I've never done it. I've never done this before. We're gonna now take a look, Donovan. I don't know if you can see. There's some orange cones up here that I'm going to probably smash with my tires. But we're gonna give it a whirl. I'm not gonna guarantee that I'm gonna actually take this turn, but it's a laned turn with all of the cones.
I have
so
faith
we're gonna
in
give it a
you.
whirl now. All right. So put foot on the brake,
Yes,
right?
Foot on the brake.
Okay.
You cannot move while that parking brake is engaged.
Where is the parking brake?
Parking brake, big yellow button.
This. No,
Big yellow
this.
button, yep.
So what do I do? Pull it?
So to disengage, you're going to push it. However, you're going to close the door first.
Okay.
So we don't
And how do I do that?
push your van. So the door is right
This.
there, the green one. Yep.
All
So
right.
push it down.
Look at that. All right.
And then with your foot still engaged on the brake, you
Yep.
can put it into gear.
Okay.
And
All right.
then you're going to push that parking brake in.
Push it in.
A little bit more force.
Oh, look at that. Oh, you hear that?
Yeah.
You hear that, Donovan?
Hey, brother, you are
Like
ready
a
to get
sissy.
after it. That is a sign that you are ready to hit the road.
All right. Here we go. I'm going.
I have faith
We're
in
just
you.
riding the brake. Riding the brake here, Donovan.
Well, how does it feel?
Now look, it doesn't feel bad. I honestly, like most people, right? Like you, Chloe, said you were a little intimidated when you first got behind the wheel 4 years ago. You've been doing this now for 4 years. And it is it is a little intimidating just because of the size, right?
Fair.
But did I hit a cone? Whoop.
Oh,
Well,
just a little bit.
oh boy. All right.
That's all right.
One
sure those-
went under the wheel.
Those 3 cars, I'm sure, are not
clearing that
helping you.
cone.
Yes, you did.
Oh, I did clear it.
Yeah.
I cleared it. Well, both hands on the wheel. All right. Just check and make sure.
You're
We're
doing
gonna
good from
circle
here,
around.
man.
This is the biggest vehicle I've ever driven, ever, in my entire life.
Well, you're not alone because I have not driven a school bus at all. So you're doing something I've not done.
Oh, Donovan, come out Thursday afternoon. It's from 4 to 8, I believe, here at Waukesha North High School.
Uh-huh.
You get the opportunity to see what it's like. Again, they need bus drivers. They don't want to have a repeat of what happened 2 years ago.
Fair.
And the pay is good, right, Chloe? It's $24 an hour. They guarantee, that's a starting wage. They guarantee 5 hours a day, and you don't you have routes in the morning, and then in the afternoon, and in between you're getting paid to do that. And I didn't go back to where I started, but that's okay. That's all right. I'm on the other side of the cones now. You get paid for that afternoon time that you stay at home. Where do I?
And then in neutral.
Neutral, and then pull it.
You pull it, yes. Yep.
Look at that.
Look at you, like a pro already in 5 minutes. So, Brett, I want to ask you, why
There we
Why
Yeah.
is there such a need? Why aren't enough people signing up to be bus drivers?
Well, look, I mean, it's a challenging job, right, Donovan? I mean, it takes a special skill set not only to drive the bus, but also you got, 40 kids on the bus screaming their heads off and jumping around and whatnot. Chloe said she's got a tip about that.
Yeah.
And I love this. She says the first day, you set the tone the very first day, right? And make sure that all the kids know not to be naughty on the bus, and then they stay good the whole year. You let them go that one day, that first day, you let them go. It's a nut house, I imagine, for the whole school year.
Got to set the tone.
But you know what? This kind of job appeals to a lot of a wide demographic of people, right? You retirees, college students. Chloe was in college when she started. She said it was great because she could go to work in the morning, take some classes in the afternoon, come back, drive again for the end of the school day, and then she had her nights free. You don't have to work weekends, Donovan. You don't have to work holidays. We can't even say that.
Absolutely
at
not.
FOX6, right?
100%. You know how it goes. We work weekends, holidays, sometimes 13-hour days during holidays. It's so dependent. That is, you identified, the pay, how many hours guaranteed. It sounds like some really attractive, beginnings to people who are potentially interested in this line of work. Have they already started getting applicants or going through any applicants yet in preparation for the fall?
So they have 70 routes essentially that they need to fill by the end of the summer to be ready for fall. They need about 15 drivers to fill the remaining spots, right? But they want more because you know what happens, right? It's just like anywhere you work. Somebody calls in sick. Somebody says, "Oh, I can't. I got a hangnail. I can't come into work today," or whatever. And so then they have to find somebody else to cover the route. And so they want to have a good pool of people to be able to pick from. Now, I know what you're thinking too. They go through a pretty stringent background check, right? They make sure that everybody's following all the safety procedures and policies and whatnot. There are cameras on the school bus to make sure everybody, drivers included, are doing what they're supposed to do. So there is a high level of safety that is sought after here at First Student in particular. So fingers crossed, come Thursday, they'll be able to find some new recruits. They also, if you've never driven, if you're interested, maybe Donovan, you get off early in the morning. You can have a part-time job here. They'll pay for your training, man.
Oh, get out of town.
They'll pay for your, what is CDL? CDL is,
Yes.
yeah, CDL. Chloe's going, yeah, that's what it's called.
Yes.
Your commercial driver's license. Commercial driver's license.
Apparently, you might want to get one since you looked good behind the wheel there, Brett.
I'm telling you, right? No, so it's a lot of fun, and hey, you know what? Even if you just want to come and you want to do like what I just did and test drive a bus, Thursday, come on down to Waukesha North High School, and you can do it yourself.
I'm loving this. Okay, so people who are in fact tuned in right now saying, hey, I'm that candidate, I'm that applicant, I want to come down, what do folks need to bring with them?
I think Donovan, if people are tuning in right now, they're saying, has Brett switched careers? What's going on? Why
right?
No, you just come down, bring yourself, make sure you have a driver's license, right? And an interest in this field, and they'll take it from there. But again, they'll pay for your training. Starting wage $24 an hour, but they'll bump you up if you've got experience. So what do you got to lose, right?
Nothing to lose. The worst that could happen is, well, I guess you don't get the job. I guess that's the worst case scenario. But hopefully that doesn't happen to a lot of folks out there. Tell me this, brother, in terms of like what organizers are looking for or what they're hearing from the community, what is kind of maybe the number one deterrent that's keeping folks from applying to becoming bus drivers? Is it the nature of the students, and some would argue the disrespect that comes along sometimes with certain kids who board the bus?
Well, sure. I mean, it's a thankless job, right? Because you're expected to get the kids to and from school safely every day. But then, parents don't always know what's going on the bus when, Sally or Jimmy's throwing a fit and jumping around and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, that is one thing. The other thing is, it is a seasonal job, right? So there is no, guarantee that you'll be back next fall, and then you've got to find other employment if you so choose. So that is a deterrent. But from what we hear from people like Chloe, thumbs up. She loves her job. She's going into five years now.
Oh, wow.
Chloe says 5 years that she's been doing this. Chloe's mom was a bus driver.
Okay.
And that's kind of what got you into it, right? Yeah, her mom was a bus driver. So, great respect for people that do this day in and day out. It's not an easy job, but it's a fun job. And Chloe says, you know what, you can make a lot of good extra money doing it, and you can have pretty flexible hours too.
I love this. Okay, so Brett, as you're talking about this, I am so reminded to take it back a little bit of my, second grade bus driver. I lived in Atlanta, Georgia at the time. Mr. Sam, I don't know why I remember this, Brett. Mr. Sam was his name, and his fiance at the time was Chantel. Okay, and I remember on day one, he set the tone. It's not going to be, he said it's not going to be any of this screaming. Y'all, I'm quoting, y'all gonna sit down on this bus while I'm driving, and y'all not gonna act a fool. And I quite literally, I can't get rid of those words, man. They're like ingrained in my mind.
Exactly.
But you're so right. He set the tone on day one, as you mentioned, bus drivers have to do. And I'm telling you what, all of us kids were in line. We didn't get out of line. If we kind of did the kids' stupid stuff we do, we were instantly snapped back into reality. And so bus drivers are such an important part of our upbringing, man. They are the adults away from home, their moms and dads away from home.
All these years later, Donovan, you remember their name, and you remember what it was like sitting on that bus. So they have a huge impact on kids' lives, they're also role models and people that that need to be respected as well.
100%. I'm sure that you can recall your own bus driver stories, and the young woman next to you, to your right, remembers her bus driver story. So yeah, I mean, this is a great job. It's a thankless job, as you mentioned, but something so profound and important, my man.
Yes. Well, again, Thursday here, July 10th, Waukesha North High School. We'll put some information on Fox Local Mobile if you're interested in signing up. But Chloe, thank you so much. You were a great teacher. Thank you.
And
I
Brett,
don't know if I will ever be behind the wheel.
You were great too.
If you take a look, Donovan, look out in the field there. There's no cones that are smashed. They're all still standing. Now I don't know if they popped up after I rolled over them.
Let me tell you what.
But right now,
they're still standing. They're intact. You did the doggone thing.
That's right.
Fantastic, my man. Well, Brett, it is always great to see you, brother. So excited you had this opportunity to get behind the wheel of something new. Who knows what you're going to do next with this job and what you'll be driving next. Maybe your Maserati in the future, right?
You never know.
You never know.
Could be. Could be.
Good stuff, my man. Great to see you, brother. Talk to you soon.
All right, thank you.
All
Thanks, Donovan.
righty, anytime. All righty, that was our Brett Lemoyne right there for us, our Waukesha County reporter right there, doing all things, keeping us updated on all things in Waukesha County. As you heard him mention, folks there are in need of bus drivers. So if that is you watching the Wisconsin Live Desk right now at this hour, and you feel as though you are qualified and want to, take on that responsibility, make sure you do that as folks look toward the fall and making sure kids in that community have those bus drivers that we always remember and that will stay with us for the rest of our lives. And for me, that was Mr. Sam. Alrighty, folks. Let's take a quick short break. We will come back with more news in terms of what's happening in our community and what's also happening around the country. Stay with us. We'll be right back. You are watching the Wisconsin Live Desk. Donovan Long here. Thank you so much for joining us.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
And good afternoon, everyone. Donovan Long here, coming to you live from our Wisconsin Live Desk at our FOX6 studios here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Time now is 12:48. If you're just now joining us, maybe new to the Wisconsin Live Desk, first of all, thank you so much for your time. Secondly, this is our real-time way of getting information out to you, disseminating information out to you with regard to what's happening all over our community, but all over the state of Wisconsin as well, and that includes what's happening outside of where we normally frequent. We're talking about what's happening around the country and overseas as well. One of the big stories we've been following, not only on our broadcast throughout the morning, throughout the day, and will continue, honestly, in the days to come, is what's happening in Texas. You probably heard about it, you probably read about it, seen it on your social media feeds. Let's give you a live look now at the governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, right here, preparing to fly over all of the destruction and the devastation that lies within Texas right now. We know that so many families, so many children are either missing, presumed dead, and it's all because of the flooding that started over the 4th of July weekend, and so many people were out celebrating the holiday with their loved ones. These folks to our south in Texas had a very different holiday weekend, and it's devastating, and it's absolutely heartbreaking and harrowing to even recount some of what we know in terms of what they are facing there in Texas. We know Kerr County, Texas is one of the hardest hit areas. We know devastation is so widespread. It is absolutely devastating to watch and see those images come out of that part of Texas. I want to take this image full so you can get a real-time view of what is happening on the ground right now. This is a real-time view of what's happening in Texas. Again, you're seeing the governor preparing to tour some of the flood damage that lies within the state he governs. We know, according to the Associated Press at last check, at least 109 people have been killed in central Texas as a result of the flooding that started on the morning of the 4th of July. We know one of the most devastating news we've received, pieces of news we've received, I should say, has been what's happening at Camp Mystic in Hunt, Texas. We know organizers there have said that they are mourning the loss of 27 campers and counselors. We know that this specific camp, this Camp Mystic, was specific to girls, young girls coming of age. It was a Christian camp. In fact, I was watching a couple of other news programs and watching their coverage as well and following really all coverage online. And from what I understand, former First Lady Bush was a counselor here, and her daughter Jenna Bush Hager, was actually a member at one point of this specific camp. So you can imagine that this is touching not only lives here in Texas, but it's touching the lives of people who have moved on beyond Texas and have those roots in Central Texas. So this is something that is absolutely heartbreaking for so many people. Prayers, well wishes, thoughts, all being sent from all over the country to this part of Texas and so many people who are dealing with this type of widespread destruction. So if you're just now joining us, you're looking at Governor Greg Abbott preparing to lift off here in this military-grade helicopter, preparing to tour the damage in Texas. We will get back to this coverage, but in the meantime, we want to take a quick short break as we prepare to watch the governor see the devastation in the state that he governs. We'll be right back on the other side of the Wisconsin Live Desk. Thank you all so much for joining us.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Donovan Long here at the Wisconsin Live Desk from our Fox 6 studios here. Time now is 12:54. I am in for Carl Deffenbaugh right now. If you're just now joining us, this is our real-time way of getting all kinds of information out to you with regard to what's happening in politics, what's happening with the weather, the news in our community, and around so many communities in the state of Wisconsin, as well as overseas and around the country. Want to get to one of the main stories we're also following here this afternoon with our Christina Venzel. She's joining us live here talking about what's going on in Sheboygan County. We know that you are following Christina up on a police chase that turned into a shooting in Sheboygan Falls involving Hennessy Drain. What is the latest on this investigation? What can you tell us at this hour?
Yeah, hey Donovan. So we're actually learning a lot more information about what led up to that chase and what actually happened during that shooting. So we first reported this story back in June. The shooting was on June 11th. It started here in Sheboygan Falls. We're standing right outside the police department here. So the shooting happened at a home in Sheboygan Falls, and at the time we didn't know what led up to that shooting. Now we're learning through prosecutors with the charges, formal charges have been officially filed this month. So it took almost a month for those formal charges to be filed. But now we're learning Hennessy Drain is the man charged in the shooting and then leading law enforcement on a several county chase, according to prosecutors. So we'll kind of walk you through what we're learning happened. It's a 6-page complaint from Sheboygan County, and then there's an additional complaint in Ozaukee County for the traffic violations there. But when it comes to the charges here in Sheboygan County, prosecutors say that there was a fight between two godsons living at a home in Sheboygan Falls, and it was actually their godfather who got caught in the crossfire. And prosecutors say that the godfather, he is okay, but at the time he was paralyzed from the waist down. And so the complaint lists the details of an argument between the two godsons, and one of those being Hennessy Drain. And then after the shooting, prosecutors say that Drain ran outside and got into a woman's parked car, held a gun to her head, and demanded her to drive to Milwaukee. Prosecutors say that woman told police she got out of the car, and Drain, according to prosecutors, then took off in her car in that Jeep. And that is where you see the Jeep. We have video of this thanks to DOT, leading law enforcement on a chase down the interstate, and then ultimately it ended in Milwaukee County, where video shows officers putting out stop sticks, and then ultimately you see Drain kind of running through the interstate before he was taken into custody. So a lot of new information coming out today, and actually we just locked in an interview with a man who was hit by Drain's Jeep on the interstate, and actually might be the reason he got out of the car and started running. So we're talking with that gentleman coming up just about his reaction to these charges, and now that those formal charges have been filed and we know kind of what prosecutors say led up to all of this.
I wanted to ask you too, Christina, what kind of insight are you expecting to get from your perspective? You've been following this story from day one. What are you looking forward to hearing from the essentially the eyewitness who was there real time when this all unfolded?
I'm curious just his thoughts on, now that charges have been filed. I mean, it's been almost a month, and I've been following this case. I think everybody was curious what started this whole thing, right, in Sheboygan, and then what led to that chase. So I'm curious his thoughts on hearing that this was an argument, it sounds like, between godsons, and the godfather was the one who was shot, and then, hearing, because he's actually mentioned in that complaint that the suspect ran into a person driving. So curious to see what he thinks about just knowing that formal charges were now filed, and what's it like knowing, first of all, being a part of that, but also seeing kind of the end result here until now. Of course, Hennessy Drain will go through the court process.
Have we heard from Drain's family members or friends with regard to this case? Have we heard from anybody connected to him in that capacity, Christina?
No, so we actually were at the home today. We knocked on the door and nobody answered to see if the godfather wanted to speak. And then I reached out to him and he said no thank you. So haven't heard from anybody close to Mr. Drain. We know that he did go through his first initial appearance last week. And so depending on how the court process goes, maybe there will be family in the courtroom for him. But we did try knocking on the door to see if the godfather or the other person who was involved who has not been formally charged, would want to speak to us today, and the godfather said no.
Well, I appreciate your efforts on the ground there. We look forward to talking with you more. I know you got to get to this interview and prep for that, but thank you for taking time with us to kind of unpack the update with this story. Really appreciate it. All righty,
yeah, thanks, Donovan.
Anytime, always good to see you. All righty, folks, we'll get back to Christina momentarily later on tonight during Fox 6 News, first at 4 and through the rest of our evening broadcast. But again, she's following the story out of Sheboygan County, where you just heard her identify Hennessy Drain facing criminal charges now. We know he's been officially charged according to prosecutors. She is going to interview a gentleman who was an eyewitness to the chase part of it that began with a shooting involving godsons and the godfather, as you just heard Christina unpack. So that will be something you can follow this evening on fox6now.com and our Fox local mobile app, as well as right here on the Wisconsin Live Desk as the day progresses. Alrighty, folks, in the meantime, we will take a quick short break, but you are watching Wisconsin Live Desk right here, a real-time way of getting information out to you with regard to updates on criminal cases, politics, and what's happening as well across our nation. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. Donovan Long here, in for Carl Deffenbaugh at this hour. We've been covering so many things happening around our community. If you saw us earlier, we were speaking with our Waukesha County reporter, Brett Lemoyne. He was breaking down how folks in that community are already looking ahead to the fall. They need you all bus drivers. They need bus drivers. They want enough to have to pull from in case there should be a shortage in the fall, or that some routes get canceled, or any issues they're trying to mitigate by hiring more and more staff members. So as part of that effort, our own Brett Lemoyne got a chance to hop in a school bus for the first time as a driver. Said it was something he's never done before, something that he says is the biggest vehicle he's ever driven. But all of this in an effort, rather, to ensure the safety of buses, of course, and then showing how it's a pretty quick way to get around and navigate a bus, as long as you have like a CDL, of course, commercial driver's license. But he says that this is something that folks in that community are already looking ahead to. They need more bus drivers, so he'll have more on that report later on at Fox 6 First at 4, 5, and 6, and throughout the broadcast. the subsequent broadcast, and of course on our website and Fox local mobile app. In addition to that, we just heard from Christina Van Zelst, who was also working on a story she's been following since news broke out of Sheboygan Falls, where there was a shooting that turned into a police chase. It prompted the police chase. Well, a gentleman at the center of that, Hennessy Drain, has now been criminally charged. She is getting ready to interview a gentleman who was a part of the chase in terms of being hit by the driver, who police say was Hennessy Drain, as he was evading arrest and evading those officers. So you'll get a real-time account as to what it was like being in the mix of all of that just by happenstance and kind of wrong place at the wrong time. We know that gentleman is doing okay, but Christina will unpack his view and account of that when it happened. Again, that gentleman at the center of this investigation, Hennessy Drain, has been criminally charged. That is the newest news in terms of that investigation right now. So she'll have that as well throughout the broadcast later today and on our Fox local mobile app. In the meantime, I want to get you caught up on what's happening also around the country. We do know that there is a State Department press briefing that should begin momentarily here. We know the spokesperson is Tammy Bruce. She should be joining the podium here any second now, updating us on the Trump administration's efforts to, of course, follow what's happening in the Middle East. His meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli prime minister, and of course, when the president met with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, he recommended Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize. So we expect, or it rather is likely, that those topics and more could be discussed as the day progresses and as this news conference gets underway. But right now you're taking a live look inside as crews there await a State Department briefing. Tammy Bruce, the spokesperson at the helm, as the woman in charge of disseminating information from that agency to the rest of America. So we are waiting on that to happen. We can tell you there's so many things that are happening worldwide. A huge focus is likely to be on the unrest in the Middle East, what's happening with Ukraine, as well as Russia, Israel, and so many other countries who are at war at this moment with each other. We also can tell you there is likely conversation about the president's tariffs and his deadline for so many other countries to get on board and make deals with our country. So a lot to unpack with regard to what's happening in terms of our politics and what's happening on Capitol Hill. But we can tell you this is set to happen momentarily. A lot to unpack out of there for sure. Again, we are just now waiting on Tammy Bruce to take the helm here, to take the podium here. In the meantime, we want to give you, a live look now. Sorry about the change here. We've got some technological difficulties, but I want to give you, in the meantime, a quick look at what's happening in Texas. We know that the governor is expected to tour so much of the devastation from a military-grade helicopter. We momentarily saw him get inside the helicopter to tour the damage. I am awaiting a couple of different videos that we can probably give you real time as to what he is seeing on the ground there. If you excuse me, I'm just looking up at one of our screens here to sort of kind of give you a real-time view of what it's looking like in Texas so far right now. We know that things are ever changing. We know there has been more than 100 people who have died as a result of this, and it is absolutely devastating to see. I want to give you a real-time view now, though, of what's happening or what it looks like in Texas so far as we can see. This is just a stagnant view where we know search crews are working to rescue the dozens of missing people who have still not been heard from since the morning of the 4th of July. That's when these devastating floods started to happen. We do know that this is something that nobody prepared for, right? This is something that while we here in Wisconsin were celebrating the 4th with our families and cookouts and celebrations, it was quite the stark contrast in Central Texas. Again, as far as we know, the last check, this has been a very deadly situation. At least 104 people have died in the floods, in the devastation, in the catastrophe here in Central Texas. We know that there are more than 800, we know that crews rescued more than 850 people since the 4th of July weekend, and that number continues, we hope, will rise as more people hopefully are okay, just not able to get to their loved ones at this moment. We do know that there has been such devastation coming out of Camp Mystic, which is in Kerr County, Texas. It is an all-girls camp. We know the organizers have since alerted authorities that they are mourning the loss of 27 counselors and campers who were a part of that camp. I have seen so many different correspondents talk about, this was somewhere they sent their children to, of course, become better people, to have fun. This was a Christian-based camp, by the way. This is somewhere you send your kids to have fun, develop, socialize, and interact with people who aren't like them, who don't look like them even, and to know that they will not be coming home to their families anymore is the most devastating news anyone, any parent, any family could ever get. And so this is just the reality of what those folks to our south are facing, and something that we will continue following throughout our broadcast, throughout our coverage online as well. Again, just to recap, we know Governor Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, is set any moment now to fly over the destruction in Central Texas. He will be getting a bird's eye, real-time view of what has happened, the harrowing events that have sort of underscored the nature of this destruction in Central Texas that all of this flooding has caused. We know one of the hardest hit areas is in Kerr County, Texas, which again is where the Camp Mystic Christian Summer Camp was. It's a century-old all-girls Christian summer camp, if you're familiar with that or not. But we do know that there is still a search on for some of the counselors and campers who have still not been heard from since the 4th of July weekend when all of this started. So this is something that is absolutely devastating to even report on, but to just have to imagine that this is a reality for so many people to our south. And so our thoughts, our prayers are certainly with not only the people and the victims of the flooding, but the search crews, the law enforcement agencies, and the fire crews who are working around the clock to find people, to find loved ones, and to ensure the safety of so many people in that area. But folks, we will continue following this, as well as what's also happening around our country and around our world on the other side of this break. Thank you for joining us right here on our Wisconsin Live Desk. We'll see you in just a bit.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Donovan Long here, coming to you live from the Wisconsin Live Desk, in for Carl Deffenbaugh. Your time now is 1:14. We have been following, of course, one of our big stories nationally, the devastation in Texas. We have seen the governor, Greg Abbott, board a military-grade helicopter as he was preparing to fly over all of the damage. I want to give you kind of a live look now at Texas in terms of what we're seeing right now. We have very limited at the time limited images of what's happening in the moments as folks are trying to navigate all of this destruction down in this area. We're looking at Kerrville Aviation, where we were just taking a look at Governor Abbott's military helicopter that he boarded, preparing to lift off and tour the devastation in Texas. You got to imagine the images he is going to see are going to be gut-wrenching. I mean, when talking about the flooding on the ground or looking at videos and images is one thing, but being able to see the widespread destruction, the mass catastrophe that has to hit home for him. It's a state he governs. It's people he has sworn to protect. And in the midst of all of that, he is focusing his efforts to do just that, protect and serve the people who are right now clinging to life, some who have loved ones who have not been heard from, some who have loved ones who have died. So you can imagine how heavy this must weigh on his heart, but how heavy it must weigh on every Texan's heart, even if you're not from the part of the state in Central Texas where all of this devastation lingers. To bring you up to speed, at last check, we know at least 104 people have died in the flooding in Central Texas. That is the most recent up-to-date information that we have in terms of the death toll. It unfortunately is likely to rise as crews continue wading through the navigation, finding people who succumb to their injuries or who have succumbed to their injuries or who have not made it out of this situation alive. We do know that the crews there on the ground are continuing to search for missing people. This all started over the 4th of July holiday weekend, whereas in contrast, we up north here in the Midwest, north from Texas anyway, we're celebrating with barbecues, with our families, with music, with entertainment. That was not the case in Central Texas on the 4th of July, the morning of anyway, when this all started. So you can imagine in the days that have followed the nation's birthday, it has been nothing. There's been no celebrating at all in this part of the country. I mean, I can imagine there's been tears of joy when families have reunited, those who've been able to do that. But it was not the 4th of July that they were expecting. One of the gut-wrenching pieces of information that have come out of Central Texas is what's happened at the Camp Mystic in Kerr County, Texas. It's an all-girl Christian camp in this part of Texas, in this part of the state. We know that crews have since alerted authorities saying that 27 campers and counselors are dead. That is devastating. We know the former First Lady Bush, according to Jenna Bush Hager, her daughter, was a counselor there. Jenna Bush Hager also was very familiar with that camp. She has connections to it. So you can imagine being that far away in New York and her roots are in Texas. She is obviously thinking about those folks there and what could have been for so many people who sent their loved ones there to have a great time. We are seeing now some aerial views of Central Texas. You're getting a different view of the flooding and the devastation from overhead. I know this video is a bit grainy we're looking at, but you got to understand this view is coming to us from above, and we know so many of the cell towers there are probably knocked down, making it a little bit difficult to maybe see or get a better connection of what we're trying to focus on from above ground here. The image is getting a little more clear as time progresses here. You're seeing down trees, you're seeing pieces of wood, people's homes, pieces of them anyway, just kind of littering the yard here. We know this flooding has been deadly, folks, at least according to last check. Fox News reporting at least 104 people now dead from this 4th of July flooding that started on the morning of the 4th of July. I am not sure where this video is coming from per se, but I do know that Governor Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, boarded a military-grade helicopter to give a real-time view of what he was going to see and what you can see on the ground here. This view is from one of our affiliates in Austin, Texas. You're looking at kind of an aerial view, a bird's eye view of what folks in that part of Texas are seeing there. From what I understand, Kerr County, Texas, and Central Texas is one of the most hard-hit areas, suffering from the flooding and the devastation that follows and will continue, unfortunately, to follow, because these folks are dealing with even more rain that came in the days after the flooding initially swept parts of Central Texas. So you just can imagine what they're going through. A, not knowing where their loved ones are. B, grieving the loss of their loved ones. And C, losing everything that they perhaps came to Texas with. That is so much to navigate, to process. I mean, a lot of people don't have bandwidth to withstand that kind of emotional and physical toll. So you have to imagine that they are going through very hard times right now, and that is an understatement, to be completely frank. We do know there are so many ways, though, if you're watching this, that you can volunteer to help the folks in Texas right now with flooding relief. If you head to our Fox Local mobile app or even our website, we have itemized ways that you can make a difference for folks there from thousands of miles away. And every little bit counts. We know that food is higher right now, gas, groceries. We know things are more expensive than they were in months ago or in years past, but every little bit helps, folks. Every dollar helps. And so we have a way you can make a difference if you feel called to do so right now on our website, fox6now.com, or our Fox Local mobile app. And this will help all of the families who have been devastated by the flooding that started on the morning of July 4th. But if you were just now joining us, we are following one of the biggest stories around the nation right now out of Texas, the flooding that has killed more than 100 people. We do know that crews have, since the July 4th weekend, rescued more than 850 people. We do know that they are continuing to search for so many people who have not been heard from. This is something we will obviously keep our eye on and our minds on as we learn more information about the number of people who have been rescued, the number of people who have been found, and unfortunately and grimly, the number of people who have been killed. So it's heartbreaking and it's harrowing to watch these images come out of Texas. But I want to give you a different look right now. This was just where moments ago the governor of Texas was preparing to lift off in a military-grade helicopter to tour the damage here all through Texas, or rather the parts that have been devastated by the flooding here. This is something that has to hit close to home with him as a Texan, as a governor, as a leader. So you can imagine what he's going through as he represents so many people, a lot of them right now suffering because of the flooding that has really hit this community hard. Well, folks, we will take a quick short break as we continue following that story and so many others around the country and around the world. But thank you so much for joining us right here on our Wisconsin Live Desk, a very live, real-time view of what's happening all over the country. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you on the other side of this break.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
And good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. Donovan Long here from our Fox 6 studios. If you're just now joining us, thank you so much for your time. If you're here for the first time, wondering what is wild, as we call it, what is the Wisconsin Live Desk? Well, this is our real-time way of getting information out to you with regard to what's happening politically, economically, what's happening in our own community here in Southeast Wisconsin, and what's also happening around the world. You may have been joining us a little bit ago before we took a break. The biggest I suppose, story we're following nationally right now is a flooding in Texas. It's deadly, it's devastating, and it's really catastrophic. We've seen images from above, these aerial images that kind of show us a real-time view of what those folks are dealing with on the ground there, and it's very, very harrowing to watch. I mean, you have so many people who are looking for loved ones, so many people who haven't heard from their loved ones, and people who've lost them in the process. We know one of the main points that have been sort of thrust to the forefront of this coverage is this all-girls Christian camp called Camp Mystic. You may have heard of it by now. Well, counselors have posted online that 27 campers, i.e. young girls, or a mix of campers and counselors have died, 27 of which. And so you can imagine what that community there is dealing with. We're seeing some more images coming through our affiliate from Austin, Texas. I want to give you a look right now, just to give you a real-time view of what we're seeing. Now, this is from Austin, Texas. I think this is from Austin, Texas, or this is our Austin affiliate, either showing what's happening in Central Texas. One of my producers listening can kind of sort of speak to that. This is our affiliate, our Austin, Texas affiliate, giving this view of what's happening in Central Texas. Okay, that was what I initially thought. And you can see some of the destruction here on your screen. We have seen so many other damaging images and video here that show us a little bit more of the devastation that so many folks in Central Texas are dealing with. But this is something that will continue to be followed. We know all of this flooding started on the 4th of July morning, the morning of the holiday, whereas so many other communities around the nation were celebrating the nation's 249th birthday. These folks were grieving. They were in shock, in horror at the sudden loss of their children, their families, their friends, their community, their homes. So you have to imagine what they're going through. And quite frankly, it's hard to imagine. If you haven't experienced loss to this magnitude, there's no way you could even relate or try to put yourself in someone's shoes like this. So the best thing to do is just pray for them and give them the best wishes from afar. Folks, you can also donate. Let's be clear. You can also donate. There are ways that you can do so if you connect with us on our FOX6 mobile app or fox6now.com, our website. We have itemized ways with the quick scan of a QR code that you can donate to the families and the victims of this flooding in Central Texas. And every little bit counts. It doesn't matter how far away you are. It doesn't matter how much money you're able to give. You can 100% help. And I'm so glad we were able to pull up this graphic here. This is how you can donate. You just take your phone and take a picture of the QR code that is in the center of the screen. And if that is a little more invasive for you, or a little more kind of advanced technologically than what you are used to, I should say, you can always visit the website. It is go.fox/TX-flood-relief. And that's itemized, spelled out for you right here on your screen. You can even take a screenshot of this just to have for safekeeping if you have to run to grab the kiddos or run to take a work call, whatever the case may be. By all means, help these folks out if you have the means to do so. Every little bit counts. Well, we'll continue following this as the day progresses and our subsequent broadcasts after Fox 6 News at 4. But in the meantime, here is another view of what's happening, the devastation in Texas. Kim Murphy is standing by to join you for the Wisconsin Live Desk. She'll unpack more about what's happening in Texas, what's happening in our own community, as well as what's happening overseas. We'll let you sort of watch all of this destruction and all of this debris that you can see from the from above so you can get a real-time account of what's happening and what so many people, our neighbors down south, are experiencing. Again, thank you so much for watching and joining us here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. You be well and take care.
Good afternoon and welcome to the second hour of the Wisconsin Live Desk. You are taking a live look at some of the aerials that are being fed into our system, the Matrix, this afternoon. The death toll from this flood, the flash floods over the 4th of July weekend, now surpassing 100 people on Monday as the search and rescue continues. Authorities are overseeing the search for victims, and they say they're going to wait to address questions about, was there enough warning? Were there weather warnings, and why some summer camps didn't evacuate ahead of the flooding and others did? Officials spoke only hours after the operators of Camp Mystic talked about the loss of 27 campers and counselors in the floodwaters. The Kerr County officials said as of Monday, 10 campers and 1 counselor still have not been found and are unaccounted for. We know that Texas Governor Greg Abbott is also set to take a tour, get an aerial survey of the extent of the damage, and it is something that even folks who live in that area say that it's nothing that they've seen in their lifetime, some referring to it as a once in a generational event. We don't know, but we will take a break.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
And welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. I am Kim Murphy. We have been keeping an eye on the situation in Texas, where efforts are still ongoing to recover and search for those who are still missing after the devastating floods this weekend over the 4th of July weekend. Those officials say that this is the worst in decades. It affected summer camps, homes, all along the Guadalupe River. And what you're seeing on the left, this is the image yesterday of that area in Kerr County that was the most devastated by the flash flooding. So different day by day, as we're seeing that the water is like just as quickly as they rose, they receded. But there are twisted trees, piles of mattresses, refrigerators, destroyed homes, you name it. It is what the folks in that county are dealing with. 19 deaths have been reported in the counties of Travis, Burnett, Kendall, Tom Green, and Williamson counties. And among those confirmed dead, 8-year-old sisters from Dallas who were at Camp Mystic, along with a former coach and his wife who were staying at their riverfront home, and their daughters are still missing. We can tell you that Texas Governor Greg Abbott is surveying the damage, and as soon as he is completed that, we're going to get a briefing from the governor, there to find out where the rescue and recovery efforts stand, as he no doubt will be deflecting questions about the weather warnings. There are criticisms that are quickly rising about why weren't residents, camps notified that there could be a potential for catastrophic flash flooding. And those are questions that are not going to go away. They may be delayed right now, as the focus right now is on survivors and finding people that still need help. But after that mission is complete, there are going to be a lot of questions, and whether or not cuts to the National Weather Service, was that part of the reason why warnings were not issued ahead of this catastrophic event? Or, as some officials have said early on, that this is something that may be impossible to predict because it happened in the early morning hours. This is not something that is normal for this area. So there is a lot that has to be investigated. But right now, again, the focus is on what is happening in the search and rescue front. So I'm going to give you another shot of what we're seeing right now from the skies above Kerr County in Texas. That's in central Texas. So we're going to keep an eye on that. And in a couple minutes, we're going to check in with Stephanie Barrichello to get more of an explanation of the nature of flash floods, why the timing of this event was so significant and contributed so greatly to the loss of life, and if anything, what we can take away from this here in Wisconsin, because we periodically get flash flood warnings. And I think after this, a lot of us, if you've not been really keen on paying attention to those flash flood warnings that the National Weather Service and our weather experts here are so quick and on the job to deliver to you, maybe this will raise everyone's awareness that flash flood warnings are something to be taken seriously, and to have a plan, a preparedness plan, it could be life-saving. So we're going to get to Stephanie in just a moment, but want to check in here. Kim Murphy with the Wisconsin Live Desk. We are going to take a quick break, and we'll
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
And welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. I'm Kim Murphy on this Tuesday, and the news that we're following, and it has our attention and the attention of the country, are the conditions that right now that are happening, the rescue and the recovery for those who were caught in the flash floods on the July 4th weekend. So I want to take a moment and just kind of show you some of the images that are coming in. Hi, Steph.
Hello.
How are you? I'm like, it's been a minute. Hold on, let me get the levels right. Hold on 1 second. I tell you, you take a couple days off and everything goes bananas. How about now? No. How about we take a break? I'll be right back.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
And Welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. We must get a full screen that says operator error. We need that desperately. Steph, Barkello, thanks for bearing with me and those who are watching the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Oh, of course. I could not imagine having to push all those.
Yeah,
buttons
so
back
then
in.
when in doubt, you just kind of press them all.
Or commercial break.
Yeah, and then you, okay, I know what that does. Let's turn now to serious matters, though. Texas, this flash flooding. First of all, walk me through when a warning is issued and who does that.
Sure, the National Weather Service, they are the ones across the country who actually put warnings into effect. And then, of course, your meteorologists that you see on your apps or on your TVs, we just publicize that warning. But when you get the alert to your phone, that comes from the National Weather Service. And flooding related, that specifically would have a lot to do with the hydrologist. They are all about river flooding and just flooding in general. And a lot of times, or always, before an event, usually a watch will be put into place, but then as the storm is actually moving in, that's when a warning will be issued. Think of it also in terms of severe weather, you know, that watch versus warning. When we know a storm is coming, the National Weather Service will issue a severe thunderstorm watch. But once the storm is rolling through, the warning will be issued. So in this situation, once the National Weather Service had not necessarily eyes on the storm because it was already, you know, happening, but once they had reports and they had more confidence that flooding really was going to be a huge issue and saw some of the heavy rain that was falling, I believe that's when the warning was put into place. So a lot of times it does happen as the storm itself is rolling on through.
We often, you know, when I think of the Fox River, we often, you know, get watches and warnings. What do you do when you hear that, when you're aware of that? What should you do?
Well, in a situation like Texas, that unfortunately was a worst case scenario. So I don't think there really was a lot that could have been done, especially because of the timing
Overnight,
of it all.
the early morning hours.
Exactly, everybody was sleeping. But anyways, in a different scenario, maybe if river levels on, like you said, the Fox River or the Milwaukee River, as a severe storm is rolling through, if those are increasing, I mean, the best thing to do would, of course, be to evacuate. You know, we've had instances here through the years, even on the Milwaukee River, where there have been levels that reach houses. It doesn't happen very often here, which we're very lucky for. But the number one thing you would do would kind of think of hurricane prep. You can sandbag your home, though it's kind of hard to prepare when it comes to flash flooding because it happens so quickly. Right. But you a lot of times just have to evacuate if it's really that bad.
I remember this is at least 7 years, if not more, where Milwaukee County had a little bit of flash flooding. And I remember I was out Mayfair and it started to really rain. I was like, okay, I need to get home. And in an instant, parts of Highway 45 were closed off because the water just, you know, it rose so fast from the Milwaukee River.
Yeah, and that's what's so scary about flash flooding, because a lot of times you really can't prepare for it. So I know there have been instances also on Interstate 43. When was that, Kim? Not too long ago, where there was a construction zone, the water just pooled up so quickly and someone had to go on top of their car for a water rescue. Sometimes that's just what you have to do. Again, it doesn't happen too often, but if you are caught in a situation like that, that's how you have to act. But a lot of it is just preparation too. Knowing that heavy rain is a possibility in a thunderstorm. Sometimes we talk about flooding as a main threat or as a secondary threat. It's just something to always keep in the back of your mind. With a lot of times this time of year, our heavy or our strong storms always have the possibility of producing torrential rainfall. So it's hard to act in the moment, and sometimes you can't, but just knowing that it's a possibility can be helpful.
And the FOX6 weather app, you know, it's great to have on your phone. You actually do get to see the radar. You can, you know, there's so much information that you can track on your own. And I think, unfortunately, that's kind of the era that we're, you know, entering in as we see more natural disasters. Weather preparedness awareness, it's more than just, is my picnic going to be rained out? It really could be a life decision that you make.
I had the opportunity, not to change the topic too much, yesterday and you'll hear this next week on Wisconsin Weather Experts, to talk with the emergency manager in Dodge County. We chatted about last May when we had all of those tornadoes within Dodge County. And one thing we specifically asked her was, what can the media do better? And more so, your broadcast meteorologists, to prepare people for severe weather. And it's her, main takeaway was, just talk about preparedness. And we already do, and she mentioned that, but just to really stress, to have a safety plan. We learn that we have to go to the basement in a tornado, or what to do if you live in a hurricane-prone area. A lot of times we learn that stuff when we're in school, but hey, I'm in my 30s. I'm sure a lot of my classmates need reminders of some of that very simple weather type stuff we learned in school. So just being prepared and having a safety plan in general, refamiliarizing yourself with some of the hazards that come with even a traditional thunderstorm. We need to be back to that point. We need to be familiar with what to do if we have this hazardous weather, because it continues to happen at an elevated range too. So it sounds so simple, but just to know what to do could really save a life.
It really can. And when we talk about preparedness, that includes the family.
Yes.
I found myself, talking to my siblings and to my mom, like, okay, so, what's our plan? Where will we meet? Do you have a flashlight? What about phones and chargers and all those things? So very much a part of the awareness that I think we all are elevating. So Steph, thanks for bearing with me in the technical difficulties. And while I have you here, I want to say great job on the Whitefish Bay 4th of July parade.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. It was very fun. It was very hot, but it was very fun. Happy belated 4th to all you guys.
Okay, thank you, Steph. We're going to take a break and we'll be right back.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
There's the reason why we call it wild. It's been a wild Tuesday afternoon. So thanks for seeing what'll happen next, right? We talked to Steph, getting some very important information that even though the natural disaster happened down in Texas, we too, we get weather warnings, and they are important. And the more that we know about them and the more that we prepare, the better and safer we are ourselves and for our families. So I want to take you now back to Texas. We are getting a little more of the aerial views, and we're actually seeing some of the residential areas. You can see in the background there trees that are just, it looks like a tornado went through. They're just on their sides, and you can see how close some of those homes are to water, to the rivers that rose. The Guadalupe River is the one that's just rose so quickly in the early morning hours of July 4th. And there is going to be so much attention to the damage and the estimates, but that's down the road. Right now, the emphasis is on the recovery and the search for people who are still missing. And we know that there are a number of people from a girls' summer camp that are still missing. And so there is hope that they are found. But we're keeping an eye on that, and we will bring you up to date as soon as we get more information on that. So here on the Wild Desk, we have eyes on just about everything. And so I want to take you to the airport now. This is some good news that there's a whole generation that it just kind of floors me. They only know post 9/11. They only know about when you travel, you have to take off your shoes when you go through the screening process. Well, that only went into effect in 2001. And that followed an attempt by the shoe bomber Richard Reed to bring down a flight with a bomb that was hidden in his shoe. So the TSA shoe policy where you go through, check in, that's been a rule since 2001. Richard Reed, he tried to take down a flight from Paris to Miami. And the only way that you get through TSA check-in without taking off your shoes is if you are a pre-check program member that allows passengers to pass through with their shoes on. And there are a couple of exceptions, like if you're 75 years or older, you don't have to take off your shoes, or if you're traveling with a child who is 12 years or younger, that child does not have to take off their shoes. But for the rest of us, if you're not TSA pre-check, you do have to take off your shoes. But this may soon be changing. The TSA is said to be considering getting rid of that, dropping the policy, which, again, has been in place for maybe some people's entire lives. That's all they've ever known. But there was a time where you didn't have to take off your shoes, where you could just walk up to your gate. You could wait with your loved ones. There wasn't all the screening, but we know post 9/11, so much of our lives did change as a result of 9/11. So this is a look at Milwaukee's airport, and maybe these changes will be coming to us when the TSA, or if the TSA formally adopts or drops the rule that you have to take off your shoes for pre-check. So we will keep an eye on that. And we also are keeping an eye on what is happening in the nation's capital. So I'm going to flip over now. This is Tammy Bruce with the State Department, back, I take it, from vacation, giving us an update and taking questions from journalists. Let's listen in.
Well, I can't speak to that at this point.
Second question on
yes.
Kurtz, yeah. Could you share the State Department's comments regarding the recent meetings between the Kurdish-led delegation with the Syrian interim government in Damascus, and how does the department view Damascus' apparent lack of response to the Kurdish delegation's request to continue their dialogue?
That's good. That's a good question, but we have to take it back. I know there can be something. There's a lot of course, action and change, courtesy of Ambassador Barak, our ambassador to Turkey, who's leading the reformation, if you will, and the assistance to Syria. The Kurdish position there, of course, is of interest to many, and so we'll get that back to you.
Lastly, about how do you see the recent dispute between KRG and Baghdad over the budget and oil issue?
Is this about the salary payment still?
Exactly.
Yes, well, as we know, that's been a long time issue. I appreciate you staying on it, many others staying on it as well. I can reiterate for those who are unaware of the situation, which, again, the Middle East changed a couple of weekends ago, right? It changed dramatically. But I can tell you that we continue to urge Baghdad, in this case, and Erbil to resolve their issues through constructive dialogue. That has not changed. We still want that. Resolving this salaries issue sends a signal that Iraq is creating an environment in which U.S. companies would want to invest. That, I think, is even more heightened now than ever before with the potential. Successful resolution would also send a positive signal on broader cooperation for the benefit of all Iraqis, such as the reopening of the Iraq-Turkey pipeline and additional energy exploration, including with U.S. companies. I know that President Trump's vision of a peaceful world is one where everything is possible. Iraq fits into that, obviously, as do the Kurdish people. Nothing is impossible, and we've got the leadership that I think can take us there. Next to
Me?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. As we know, after October 7, 2003, always Prime Minister Netanyahu talking about the new Middle East. And President Trump is very concerned about the stability and peace. Can you update us now, Prime Minister Netanyahu here in town? Do you continue to support Israel for peace and stability in the Middle East and fight terrorism and proxies in the region?
I think it's pretty obvious with the relationship between President Trump and the Prime Minister of Israel, Netanyahu, as well as the Secretary of State and his comments and his relationship as well. Our involvement in the issue of defense and supporting Israel's defense of itself. It's clear that now opportunities have opened up as terrorist death squads of the region, having been supported by Iran, remain on their heels. And it's a very exciting time. It's a time where people who perhaps felt that this was the only normal or the new normal are realizing, as people around the world are, that things can change for the better. This kind of suffering is not perpetual. It can end. And that is what I know President Trump is focused on and why we have the friends that we have and the actions that we take, because a safer world for the United States, considering all that is asked of us, which we respond to with, I think, incredible generosity. It is our nature as a nation made up of people who wanted freedom and liberty, is that a peaceful world is the best thing for the United States and every other country. And that is our goal, and we search for that and work for that with our partners throughout the world. All right, yes, in the yellow.
Yes, thank you, Tammy. Ambassador Barak was in Lebanon, and he received the response, the Lebanese response on his proposal regarding the ceasefire between Lebanon and Israel. What do we expect after this? And publicly, he was positive regarding the response.
Yes.
Can you walk us through what happened? What?
Well, Special Envoy Tom Barak, also again the ambassador to Turkey, is a remarkable individual. He's got an assignment that is difficult. He, of course, he visited Beirut. He is not a man who pretends. And so you're seeing a public explanation or description of his attitude about what's happening. You can believe in that. He has said that he was unbelievably satisfied, as one example, with the Lebanese government's response to calls to disarm Hezbollah. Now, there is a transparency, I think, that President Trump has set for everyone that moves with him, that has aligned with him. And that's because the American people deserve transparency, that we, for too long, have not had it. And so, yes, while I won't characterize private diplomatic conversations that any of our leaders have, the fact of the matter is you can listen to their own words, you'll see and hear the honesty, and you'll be able to make your conclusions from that. Yes. Yes, sir, with the beard.
Thank you. We heard Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu saying that U.S. and Israel are getting closer to finding countries who will take in Palestinians. Can you tell us who are these countries? Are they in the Middle East or outside of the Middle East?
Well, we know that this has been through conversations and discussions, a part of the ideas that have been discussed or, I suppose, contemplated. There's a realization that, as the president has noted, as the situation became quite obvious, that was not an environment, the Gaza Strip, where one can live peacefully or safely. And in order to rebuild and to remake, people have to be safe. Where we go with those conversations, I won't discuss the end result, but we are at a point. What is this, Tuesday? We're dealing with, after everything we've experienced, think about it, in just 5 to 6 months. What has changed already? The Secretary noted that a bit in his remarks at the Cabinet meeting. It's been an astounding shift, and to the future itself, not in a moment of a singular ceasefire, but changes in attitudes and what we expect. So I would say that there's a belief in general that things can change, that the people themselves are what's being considered first and foremost, and it's the regional partners, the nations in that region, who also have an overwhelming interest in the destruction and the carnage ending. And so we'll have to wait and see who is going to participate in how we make this a better future for the people of the Gaza Strip. All right, and yes, sir, go ahead.
Yes, I wanted to...
Tell me your name, by the way. You're in for someone?
Yeah, I'm James Laporta from CBS News.
Great, hi there. Hi, James.
Thank you
CBS.
for having me. I wanted to take us back to Russia-Ukraine for a minute and something the president said. And I'll give you the quote. Quote, "We get a lot of BS thrown at us by Putin. If you want to know the truth, he's very nice to us all the time, but it turns out to be meaningless." How is the president going to negotiate a peace deal when everything that Putin says is meaningless? And to be fair, this is something that people have told the president for a while now, that what Putin largely says is meaningless. Even President Zelensky has said that, and the president has largely dismissed those concerns until recently.
I would urge you to be cautious about presuming the nature of the choice that the president makes, what informs his actions. Don't project onto him that he's dismissed concerns or accepted them. I've not been involved in high-stakes peace negotiations between nations, one of which is a nuclear-powered nation with nuclear weapons. Many of these issues are dealing with nations that could obliterate people in a flash. So I'm not going to presume, and none of us should, the nature of the choices that President Trump specifically makes in his determination to save people's lives and to end the absurdity of what has happened in some of these situations. He tries. He doesn't give up. He talks with people. He knows he can persuade people. He knows Vladimir Putin. There's an effort, and he was committed and remains committed to diplomacy first. But he must know that when there's a limit to that, and he believes, as I think we all should, that people, as they're portrayed in the media, can be one thing, but also that over time people do change for the worse or for the better. And President Trump is going to make a decision based on the private conversations he's had, the people that he knows, the other people involved in the negotiations, the advice he receives, the guidance from his cabinet, but also his own judgment, which has been remarkable, and his transparency. So you hear his assessment. Right. When it comes to when you make a deal with someone or something is arranged, and the Secretary has noted this also, is that you don't make a deal with someone because of trust. You make a deal with someone based on what they do and what they don't do, ultimately, in the fashion of that deal. So otherwise, with people who cause death and destruction around the world, there would never be any arrangements because there are many people you can't trust. But it's about setting a stage where people must comply with a certain dynamic or there's a price to pay. You don't need to be able to trust someone to do that. You need to be able to have an environment that someone only, frankly, like Donald Trump and the United States can set to put certain people in a line that is best for the world and their own countries.
Yes. In February,
one more.
In February,
one more.
President Trump
one
said
second,
he would
sir.
keep his
Please,
word.
in the back, stop, and we'll get one more, and then I'll move to you. Yes. Go. One more, sir. Sir, James, one more for you.
Well, in February, the president did say, I think he'll keep his word. I've known him for a long time. I think he will. I don't believe he's going to violate his word. He said, so isn't that based on trust?
Well, it is. He says that, he tells you what he's thinking, and then the whole point of negotiations and dealing with this kind of thing is based on time and actions that pass. And it's not a static decision. You don't decide that, and then that's the belief or the choice that lasts if something else occurs, or you're seeing some other behavior. We don't do that in any relationship, right? We have expectations, and then you watch and you engage, and that's the point of the engagements and the negotiations. What the president has seen, I won't comment on. I'm not going to project what the nature of how he's making his decisions. What I do know is that he gets what he wants. He's an open-minded man, but he's not naive. He is principled and clear in what he wants to achieve. That's what we're seeing. So keep that in mind as we move forward. Now I will move to the back. Sir in the glasses, and not you in the blue shirt, in the tie, and then back to you after this.
Thank you
Yes.
so much, Tammy.
Yes.
It's on the quad meeting, actually. I was trying.
Great. Okay, that was fun. I enjoyed the quad meeting. Yes.
And last week I was trying to do this, so I have so many. I'll put everything together for you to be impactful.
Oh, well, thank you.
At the recent quad meeting, Indian Foreign Minister Joy Shankar said India has every right to defend itself against terrorism and expect Quad partners to understand that. Given the situation that India shares the longest border with Bangladesh, given the situation last week, ammunition linked to the last year violent anti-government movement in Bangladesh was found in the baggage of UNIS interim government advisor Asif Mahmood at Dhaka International Airport, and under the UNIS-led interim government, last week, Sri Sri Durga Mandir, Hindu Mandir, was demolished by government bulldozer. Hindu barber was taken.
All right. Now
last one.
We try to avoid soliloquies or the little history lessons. I understand it's complicated, detailed, dynamic, involving India and Bangladesh. We understand that. There is, and I would send you to state.gov. I'm not being trite here in this suggestion. There are two statements regarding the Quad meeting, one from Secretary Rubio and a joint statement from all the partners that is quite extensive. And that is what we are willing to share about what happened in those meetings. So those are the purpose of the readouts. I will certainly not characterize not only the Secretary's position about the United States. I'm not certainly going to characterize India's or any other nation's position or statements in what is a diplomatic meeting, but I would suggest you see that joint statement, and I think we'll be in good shape. Now, behind you in the blue shirt.
Thank you, spokesperson Tammy Bruce. After President Donald Trump elected as the 47th president, in less than 6 months, we saw two major wars between India and Pakistan and Iran and Israel, and President Trump mediated both. Pakistan first nominated him for Nobel Peace Prize, and now Israel. How you see this? And second, ma'am, you have been asked 2 times before. What is
He's counting.
Yes,
okay, keep going.
In Pakistan, when there were elections here in the United States, there was much enthusiasm. A former Prime Minister Imran Khan is currently in jail. What is your official take on it? Do you see it as an internal matter of Pakistan? What's the take of this administration on Imran Khan's imprisonment in Pakistan?
Well, for the administration's opinion regarding
And you've been listening to Tammy Bruce give the daily State Department briefing on an array of questions. It's a time for members of the press to get updates on the administration and specific things that have happened over the last 24 hours. We're going to take you now to San Francisco, though. There is a press conference that is in progress right now in support of finding alternatives, finding solutions to homelessness. Let's listen.
I've been from shelter to shelter, a program. I came back to the city. I've been Ruby's Place. I have sleep in RBs. I was there for 6 months. Then I come to emergency shelter. Then I go to domestic violence shelter, emergency shelter. And I can tell you a lot of times everybody thinks up there, oh, the help is there, there's cowards. No, when you transfer help from your benefits from Hayward to San Francisco, oh, you know, it's a challenge. We were for over almost 5 months with none of that, no medical. Thanks to St. Anthony's for the support to my family receiving medical attention. All those barriers, I suffer from PTSD, severe anxiety as well. All the stress that I've been through just to get an extension. It sounds so easy when you talk to IHSS and they say, oh yeah, this is the way you get an extension. When you're in the shelter and you begin to realize that's not how it is. And the stress keep increasing in your family on a daily basis. Also, when you're in a domestic violence shelter in the city, I have the experience that they're supposed to care for you and your children, and that doesn't happen. That's my experience. And my daughter, she's 4 years old, and she can talk to you when she grows up, maybe if she remembers. And so I have videos of that. She was denied shower and bathroom services, snacks as a kid, when mom didn't have no food stamps because she was transferring her benefits from county to county. And I can tell you the barriers in my case, it's just amazing. I am so grateful for it because God is good. He knew that I'm strong and I can keep going, you know, with all my community supporting me and my children. And I can tell you it's not easy. I'm standing today in here and I am so grateful to see all you guys in here supporting us and to be able to be here about what's really going on with me. A lot of family and friends wonder, why you homeless for so long? You like to be homeless? No. I mean, I remind you, my son is autistic. I've been supporting him at school because his pediatrician couldn't assess him. So a school district has been assessing him. And in the meantime, mom has to be at school grounds every day supporting him, which means I cannot have a job, unfortunately. And I mean, my son, my 13-year-old, got hit by a car a month ago. He was in his scooter on his way to school. Mom got to be at home too. Thanks the Lord, it was vacation time, right? He's not missing that much school, but it's a challenge to be a mom. I'm grateful for it, but it would be nice for the mayor and all the people up there to really hear our prayers and our hopes. Proposition C was something that I was hoping for, and I believe that many families are as well. And it doesn't make any sense to me how, when we already have something in our basket that others have worked hard, why do we want to transfer to a different basket when you haven't worked for it? And families are being promised to receive that help, and we really need that help. And I just don't understand how is that possible, and why are children pain being invisible? You know, those kind of questions that I ask myself. And I wish that everybody up there start looking into this. Homelessness can happen to anybody. I can tell you, Tenderloin community, this is my community. In my 20s, I used to support my community. LGTB means a lot to me because Harvey was somebody that I always look up to when I was younger in my 20s. And I was honored to be part of receiving the award. The place that I used to work for received the Harvey Milk Club Award in 2005, 2008. I can't even remember no more, but back in those days. And it was an honor because I remember one of the quotes that Harvey always, you know, used to, I always look up to him because he said the pain of one, it should be the pain of the others. And I think if we all think that way, we can make a difference. We can really make our community, our city to improve. And I just wish the mayor and the Lord touch his heart and he can, I don't know what is going on with him. I know he has a lot over his shoulders. I believe that everybody before they get in a position, they have a good heart and good good at thinking about doing well for the community and their city and the world. But I understand that maybe there are other things around that are stopping him from supporting us. But I pray, and I will continue praying, that he will think about it, and instead of moving that money from basket to basket, he should be able to put some money in that basket for what he promised in his campaign. You know, he promised he was gonna help everybody, and I love that he wanted to remove people from the street, because no one.
You're listening to a news conference in San Francisco, the Coalition on Homelessness, and there you're hearing from someone who has been homeless, chronic homeless, as it is sometimes described as. And one of the issues that is now facing that community is that the president's proposal to slash the federal budget also includes calls for a 44% reduction in spending on housing and homelessness programs. And the biggest cuts would come to federal Section 8 housing vouchers, which, according to some news sources in San Francisco, that helps about 80,000 low-income households across the Bay Area afford their rent every month. So you're hearing a plea from community members and those who are recipients of those services asking for the federal government to reconsider some of the proposed cuts and to put a face to the people, the issue. It's more than just a budget line. It is more than just a budget line that we're talking about. San Francisco has an estimated homelessness population of about 38,000 or so, and it's increased 46% over the past decade. Again, looking at some of the published reports here. And that's because $5 billion of the pandemic era funding for emergency vouchers for people at risk of homelessness is set to run out. So that's one of the things that we dipped in on for you on the Wisconsin Live Desk on this Tuesday. I also want to get you up to date on a deep fake, a failed deep fake that happened earlier this month on July 3rd, apparently. Secretary of State Marco Rubio was the subject of an imposter using AI to impersonate the Secretary of State, and according to sources, federal sources, the deep fake was not successful. Quote, it was not very sophisticated. That's according to an official with the FBI. The imposter tried to contact a lot of folks. So the State Department is warning U.S. diplomats to be on guard. The imposter tried to reach out to foreign ministers, a U.S. senator, and a governor, and doing so by text, signal, and voicemail. Again, the attempt did not work, but that's just something we're probably going to hear more about as AI becomes more and more sophisticated. So this time, it did not work, not very sophisticated. It was unsuccessful, but something to be always aware about. We're going to take a quick
All spelled out. It's the Fox 6 Sports Blitz. Lily's out. Tim Van Voren, Brendan Cruz. We appreciate your company, wrapping up your holiday weekend with us. We have all kinds of fireworks to talk about this week in sports. Let's give you our starting lineup where we have some probing questions to answer. What might have been in the Damian Lillard Bucks era? What might be in the future as the team miles away from team contention? When it comes to the Brewers, only one? When it comes to professional sports, is it worth the gamble? And there is no question that our latest high school hotshot knows the long suit is helping him in the long run. People are scratching their heads. What are they all going to talk about with that stuff? Let's just start very simply with the release of Damian Lillard, the acquisition of Miles Turner, and a whole passel of Bucks moves. Before we get into the details, I want to ask each of you for 15 seconds on how you would summarize what the Bucks have done.
A large flurry, but I don't know how much substance is there. I think they made a lot of moves. They cleared a lot of money and space, but I don't know if they solved all the problems that they had last year in reaching the playoffs and not advancing farther.
All right.
I think John Horst is doing his best to keep Giannis Antetokounmpo in town, keep him happy, and he does so by bringing in Miles Turner from the Pacers. We'll talk about all of that, but I think the Bucks had to swing for the fences and get a guy, and when you have Dame, who's injured most likely out the entirety of next season, what do you do with that money? We saw what the Bucks did with that money, and that is to reallocate it and bring in a new player.
I think you guys are both right on to a lot of things. I have to say, though, I'm flabbergasted. Going into this offseason, I didn't think the Bucks could do much of anything. They have done all kinds of things. Let's pick apart the move that opens up the salary cap space and the finances, and that is the release of Damian Lillard. After a mere 2 years here, he's going to get his money. I don't understand this monstrous sympathy kick for Damian Lillard. He's going to get all his money. He's going to be able to pick his next team. It's just not the chapter that the Bucks and Lillard were expecting when he came here.
No, and that's the thing. It was underwhelming, partly because of injuries, but also it took a long time for him and Giannis to get on the same page and really click on the court. And I'm sure that they were getting there and they were on the way, but then the injury at the end with his Achilles really kind of determined his fate, I think, because of how much money was out there for him and how old he is and where this team is trying to go. It was a very creative way to move forward, to create more cap space, and to give him a chance to further his career somewhere where he wants, and it gives the Bucks a chance to try to make something happen now and in the near future with Giannis. So to me, it was the right move. It was very surprising. I did not foresee this happening, but I think for all parties involved, this was the right move, and now everybody can move forward and try to make the best for themselves.
Certainly a very skilled offensive player. Certainly gave it his effort here in Milwaukee to try to make this work, Lily. The injury that Brandon referenced, though, at the tail end makes a large pill a little easier to swallow, I think, in the big picture.
Yeah, and I think this Bucks team was looking at the fact that, okay, the playoffs didn't go how we wanted them to go, but we'll have Dame and Giannis back next season. But, oh no, though they won't. Dame will be out the entirety of next season after, of course, you see right there going down. He's going to tear his Achilles, has to have surgery on it. And it's just kind of crazy, the offseason of, torn Achilles that we've seen in the NBA in the playoffs. But for Dame, he just kind of sits there knowing that this is it. I mean, I'm done for a majority of next season. And it just is unfortunate because you thought about the reality of, okay, Giannis and Dame, potentially a third season. They're kind of starting to click more in this second year. What can they do on the court next year together? But that's never going to come to fruition. Not a lot of playoff success whatsoever, I think, with this duo, which is just unfortunate. And we talked about kind of the big three, the big four a couple years ago, and now just Giannis, the lone man standing now with Dame out. But just kind of stinks. This is the way that Dame's career ends in Milwaukee. He gave it his all coming to Titletown and to Wisconsin, and just kind of making the best of a situation that he probably didn't want to be in the first place. But big professional, big leader in the locker room. He'll be missed, but I think the Bucks did make the right move.
Did make the bigger move. Okay, what about the move at center, Brandon? Brooke Lopez departs via free agency. Miles Turner, surprisingly, is arriving via free agency.
And I think this is a good move. I don't think you're upgrading too much, but you are in age and in stamina. I mean, you have a younger player who can shoot from outside. He can fill the lane as well. He's very good with block shots, something that you saw with Brooke Lopez. I think because of his age, it's a better fit for the Bucks right now. So I think they slightly upgraded there, and I think this was also a surprise move. But with what's happened to Indy, you realize that, wait a minute, with the Pacers losing Tyrese Halliburton for almost all of next season, this opened up a chance for him to move to a place where they might be able to compete for a title or at least push into the playoffs. And so when you see that, you're kind of like, wow, okay, Brook Lopez is gone. He fills this role. I like the move. I think it's a slight upgrade.
Tonight, ESPN.com is reporting that the Bucks kind of re-signed, but actually sign off the free agent market, Ryan Rollins, so he would be back in Milwaukee on a 3-year deal. After that, it's kind of Oprah Winfrey. You get a 2-year deal, you get a 2-year, you get a 2-year, everybody gets a 2-year deal. Bucks are making a run at this. What does it do for the most important Buck, and that's Giannis Antetokounmpo?
Hopefully keeps him in town, right? I think what the Bucks wanted to do there in terms of the money was to get Miles Turner in town. That's what you see with all these vet minimums. But what you're trying to do is appease Giannis Antetokounmpo. And there were reports out there that Giannis wanted Miles Turner to come to Milwaukee. He was kind of recruiting Miles to come to town and see what the pairing could do. But I think you add an athletic center with Giannis, another guy who's a good shooter, a guy who can block shots. Of course, rebounding is something he's going to work on. But you add a younger guy to a team where the Bucks are trending in the direction of just going younger and getting guys that can shoot. So you're hoping that this is a move with Miles Turner and the return of Gary Trent Jr., Taurean Prince, KPJ. These are guys that Giannis has played with, he's comfortable with, and you're hoping these guys are the ones that Giannis can kind of build around as the Bucks try to make a run this season.
Has John Horst slept in the last month? I mean, did he go to an accounting class? The numbers, his world just has to be so far away from just pure basketball evaluation.
Well, the creativity is amazing. And to figure all these paths out, to be able to put together a roster that's competitive. And right now, the East is wide open. So anything he can do to build this roster and make it bigger is huge. I think the one thing he still needs to do is get a big-time scorer to fill the void that you're getting with the loss of Damian Lillard. I think they need somebody who could put 20 or more points in every night.
Would you try Bradley Beal on a low-money deal if he can?
1 year? Why not? Why not for 1 year?
Why not?
There we go. All right. Ryan Rollins isn't your answer at point guard, or you think he's a point guard guy and you bring in somebody else to score?
I don't think he's giving you 20 to 25 a night.
Gotcha. Okay, very good. Well, look at some of the dignitaries in Milwaukee. They're right in that vision. The Bucs season, not that far away when you think about it, but you know what season is on right now? That is the Milwaukee Brewers season, and it has had a lot of positives this season. It gets one today from a baseball standpoint. Lily also just from an emotional standpoint. Brandon Woodruff is back for the first time since 2023. That's a victory in and of itself. But then he goes out and pitches tremendously against the Marlins. Yeah,
this was a return, like 2 years in the making, right? I think we were kind of getting there. Oh, Brandon Woodruff is back, but the ankle. Oh, Brandon Woodruff is close, but the liner to the elbow. But he's finally back, guys. And he looks like the Brandon Woodruff of the past. The velocity not up there just quite yet, but what the stuff was working. It was Brandon Woodruff, a 1-2-3 first inning, and he was phenomenal on the mound. And I think, he came into it really with no expectations, but the expectation of having Brandon Woodruff back is having a really, really solid starter go deep in a game for you. And I think having him back just rejuvenized the team. You saw the guys all out there, when he was pitching in that first inning, just watching him intently, knowing what he's going to be able to do on the mound. I know he was emotional being out there, just saying to pitch in front of his family, his kids. But the wait is over. Big Lou is back, and it's nice to have him back, guys.
Well, the Brewers will certainly take him. Let's talk about some starting pitchers here. Brandon Woodruff goes today. I'm speaking of Brandon Cruz now. That's our segue. Woodruff goes today. Freddie Peralta tomorrow. He's the only all-star on the Brewers. Is that appropriate?
It is. I mean, look at this team offensively. They've done it collectively, but individually, you don't have anybody that's jumping out. Nobody's really above 300 with their batting average. You don't have a ton of home runs. Christian Yelich is your leader there, but it took him a little while to get going, and now he is into a rhythm. You have a Sal Frelick who's hitting close to 300, but he hasn't had the consistency in this road trip. You just look around. The only real consistent player right now that you could say is Freddie Peralta. Now, you might have an argument for Trevor McGill because he's made 20 saves. He's really been solid on that end. But there are a number of closers in baseball that you can argue have earned it ahead of him. So to me, Freddie Peralta is the right choice. And he is a guy that is shown this year. We've talked about it week in and week out, that he's settled in as the ace, and he seems to just enjoy having that responsibility, and he delivers every time out, especially at home.
Especially at home is right, and then he goes against the Dodgers, a big test this week for the Brewers. What about Jacob Misiorowski, who's going to go in the second game of this series against some guy named Clayton Kershaw, who's an all-star pick as a legend. Misiorowski coming off his first major league rough outing.
And listen, every rookie's not going to have a perfect game every game out, right? But I mean, his June was simply spectacular in his 3 starts. But yeah, he did get roughed up against The Mets, and it was 3 2/3 innings, 5 runs that he gave up there. And listen, he's a young pitcher. He's going to make mistakes. It's going to happen. The Mets are still a good team. But I think he's a kid who can just kind of flush this performance, learn from it. But no, this is not going to happen every single time I'm out there on the mound. He's hoping that doesn't happen against the Dodgers because they can certainly make him pay. So we know the stuff works for Mizorowski. We know the velocity is up there for him. It's just a matter of kind of settling down, knowing, all right, it didn't work out the last time I was out there, but I had a really good June. Let's build off that.
Let's build off that. There are a lot of positives he has in his arsenal at this point for sure. Dodgers had a really rough weekend against the Astros. They have not had many rough weekends or rough stretches this season at all. They are in here for the Brewers this week. And Rhys Hoskins is not going to be going against them. He's headed to the injured list. He's been a little mercurial this year, but it's a big bat to take and a big leader to take out of the lineup.
It is. And I think he was a guy that was, even though he's hitting 5th or 6th, depending on the night, he was a guy that they were looking to. And he had provided some power, 12 home runs to this point. And defensively, he's a guy. But the biggest part that I think he brings is that leadership. So he's going to be around the clubhouse. But I also think that it helps for them that they have the All-Star break after next Sunday to give him a little time. It also gives Jake Bauers a chance to get more time in there and have more consistent at-bats. And we saw today, he had a couple of hits. He's a guy that seems to be chomping at the bit for opportunity. It's now here.
And that has been the situation in Milwaukee. Position players and pitchers get up. Hey, if you start doing the job, you might have a chance. Anthony Sigler is here now. Andrew Vaughn, it seems like, is coming up from the minors to take the roster spot here for Hoskins. This is the time of year when you need some steadying influences. So Rhys Hoskins not being in there will be something to watch for sure. Garrett Mitchell's not going to be there, and now we know officially he's not going to be here all season long. How star-crossed is this guy's career?
Oh, it's such a bummer. I think we all know what talented of a player he is, but just the injury luck has not been good for Garrett Mitchell. Of course, he was the opening day starter at center field, and he has a left oblique strain that he's coming back from, and then he injures his shoulder, and now needs shoulder surgery. So he's targeting spring training of next season coming back, but kind of snake bitten there for Garrett Mitchell, and it's really tough to see.
Roll the dice on what's left of his career, and that leads us to our commercial break coming up here on the Fox 6 Sports Blitz. When we come back, a former Buck is in the news for some not good reasons. What does it mean in the big picture? Stay tuned.
A little while ago we were talking about the new look Bucks and how they're moving forward. Well, it's time to go backwards a little to the time when Malik Beasley was with this team. Now, he had some huge moments. He had some games that really showed what he could do on the court. But what we're hearing now is he's under investigation, allegedly, for gambling on games that he was involved in while a member of the Bucks. First and foremost, How concerning is it to the Bucs organization that one of their players was allegedly involved in this kind of activity?
I think it is concerning. He has outstanding debts that he's had to pay back in Milwaukee to people who gave him loans. That's established. That's not even alleged. So that's a concern. Malik Beasley was in the three-point shooting contest. He was a high enough profile player. I think the Bucs, but to a larger extent, the NBA has to get its arms around this problem like yesterday. You cannot have this stuff continue at all to have any semblance of integrity in the game. There's so much betting around the game now, you cannot have any suspicion of players on the court or on the field or whatever it might be to maintain credibility in your sport.
Yeah, I mean, gambling has always been around sports from the inception. I mean, it's human nature in many ways, but now it's organized gambling, and now you have networks that are owned by gambling entities. But you look at what he allegedly did. Will he play again in the NBA, do you think? Because we've seen a former Piston, or Toronto Raptor, not be able to play again.
Yeah, Jonte Porter, banned from the NBA last April, I believe. And that's the interesting thing. I think if they do find Malik Beasley guilty, I think that is the direction they have to go, just to set a precedent of, we've done it before, we can do it again. And it just is disappointing to see if, again, he does get charged, because, again, he was going to be one of the top free agents in the market this year. He was probably going to sign a big $42 million deal with the Pistons. Played really well for them this past season. But I do believe if they do find him guilty, if they do charge him, that's potentially the route we could go, and we might not see Malik Beasley play in the NBA anymore.
Is there a reason why we haven't heard anybody step up for him other than his agent? And his agent didn't necessarily deny these allegations either.
Yeah, his agent basically said, well, that's not a charge, it's an investigation, which is correct. I think it's a hot potato right now. I don't think anybody's going to step up, even if you wanted to step up for Malik Beasley. Everybody backing away from that story right now. Same thing in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, it's crazy. Luis Ortiz allegedly gambled. What is the solution? How does baseball, how does basketball, how do sports stay away, because they are so invested now in gambling?
Oh, that's tough. I mean, it's just, I think, up to the player to not try to get themselves embroiled in anything like this, right? In terms of Malik Beasley, if he was gambling, that's something you can't do. But I think in Luis Ortiz's case, it was, they're looking at two pitches that had unusually high bets, and those are the two pitches they're investigating to maybe see if he was kind of predicting the outcome of said pitches. Maybe, right? Maybe. And so it's just things you can't do. So you, as an athlete, you have to know, listen, this could be enticing, but we know it cannot be done if I want to keep playing and I don't want to get in trouble. But it is hard to monitor because, if this is happening, guys are trying to make money in other ways and they're trying to get away with it, but eventually it's going to come to light and it's something you can't do.
And he's on paid leave through the All-Star break. If the investigation goes on, that would extend, and then it was a firm that notices these betting trends that notified Major League Baseball. It'll be an interesting watch for both of those situations and to see how teams handle their athletes as in terms of gambling. Well, we have plenty more to come here on the Fox 6 Sports Blitz, including our next high school hot shot. So Stay with us.
Welcome back. As we celebrate the 4th of July, this track athlete gained his understanding of patriotism by visiting the local VFW with his grandparents for Sheep's Head Games. And you'll want to hear this story. Here's this week's Fox 6 High School Hotshot.
Hi, my name's Aaron Cloth. I'm a senior graduate from Oconomowoc and I run track and field. Yeah, I get cloth a lot. Pretty much ever since I heard my name over a speaker in elementary school, it's always been cloth, but it's cloth. I ran track here at Oconomowoc all 4 years of high school, and then I also ran a little bit of club track out in Milwaukee, you know, going to state sophomore, junior, and senior year, which was just amazing. I'm actually wearing the shirt from senior year. To be a sophomore on the biggest stage in your state is just a surreal experience. Ended up going for the 4x2. We took 3rd place and broke the school record, which is just absolutely amazing. And then we went back junior year for the 4x1, broke the school record there again. Then senior year, it was like, I'd say it's my favorite experience at state so far. I know freshman year, me looking up at the school record board, I was like, I want to be up there. Just reading them almost like they've stamped their name in Oconomowoc school history, and I kind of just wanted the same piece of that. Where we're standing right now just has to do with, like, I'd say my family has a patriotic bone to them. You know, just everything around me has always been like red, white, and blue. Just from being down at the VFW for family gatherings, whether it just be to hang out or putting up flags with my grandpa on Memorial Day, it did instill that patriotic bone like I mentioned earlier. Well, obviously 4th of July I'd just say is my favorite holiday to begin with. Obviously I'm a big firework guy, so we got a little bit of that in there. But it's just like how people come together is what I really like to see. After high school, I will be going to the Marines. I've had a plethora of just great role models in my family, and all of them come from some sort of military background. Grandpa, Marines, his brother, also Marines. Got an Uncle Dale, Navy, Uncle Roger, Navy. So we're standing in Oconomowoc, American Legion Post 91, with Edwin L. Jones. That's what I'm hoping to gain over time, is that understanding the rich history that these places have within them. We wouldn't have any of this without the people that sacrificed their lives for us, so I'm just trying to play a part in the country. I'm Aaron Cloth. I'm a senior graduate from Oconomowoc High School, 3-time state qualifier, and I'll be heading to the Marines. And on this week's Fox 6 High School Hotshot.
Well, that family history is pretty cool. Meanwhile, Aaron is not completely sure what his life path will be, but he could very well see himself as a career Marine who would serve his country as long as possible. We'll be right back.
Before they get to the All-Star break, the Brewers host the Dodgers and Nationals, who fired their manager and GM today.
And then it's a big weekend for Major League Baseball. Their draft begins on Sunday in Atlanta, part of the All-Star Week schedule.
And guess what? Bucs Summer League play tips off Thursday against the Nuggets. On Saturday, they're going to face the Cavs and then finish out the week against the Clippers on Sunday.
It's the time of year you always look at those rosters. Who are these guys? You'll like to see them. Absolutely. Hey, we appreciate you joining us tonight. I hope you had a great holiday week.
so far along this way, you might as well go ahead. He says this is Camp La Junta right here, and then he's going to go to North Fork and South Fork. Got it. There's a little Junta side. I've never seen that, but up on the hill there. Hey, if it could circle around and let us get a picture of the La Junta side, that'd be great. Okay, sounds good. It's right there.
If you are just joining us here, you are watching as Texas Governor Greg Abbott is touring the flood damage there. Again, the audio, video all coming in raw from our Fox 7 Austin team, but we want to bring it to you in full here. Also want to remind you that Governor Abbott is expected to speak in a matter of moments there. You can see on the bottom right-hand side of your screen over in Hunt, which is where Camp Mystic is located. So again, we'll bring that to you in full once it does start, but we are going to pop that audio right back up.
The campground's right down there. Straight down if you can, just right over Camp La Junta. Right there's the Hunt store. Now, there's a little, let me turn one more time. I'm going to show you something. He needs to do a hard left here. So it's so packed. The Hunt store looks like it's a staging area. Think of that shed. I don't even call it a shed. Whatever you call it. Pavilion. As a potential area, or just right across the street. Cameron's already down there. Yeah, they're going to clear some of those vehicles out of the way for us, Governor. Right there at that intersection. If you want to be right in front of the store. At the base of it is a Texas flag down there. Right in front of that Texas flag. For the pilots, we're good to go. Governor, you see the dumpster, you see a white van, and then a Tahoe and a pickup. Right, those are our vehicles right there. So from there, where do you want us to? So, hey, have them slow down around the store. Hard left for the store real quick. Hard left. Down and slow. So you can see the Texas flag at the base of the U.S. flag right in front of the store? Yes, sir. I'm thinking right there. Right behind the Salvation Army
If you are just joining us here on Live Now from Fox, the time is 4 o'clock on the East Coast, 1 o'clock on the West Coast, and you are taking a look at a raw feed coming in from our Fox 7 Austin team as they flew along with Texas Governor Greg Abbott. We are making sure that you can hear kind of the sounds there as there is just a little bit of narration coming in from the governor. I do also want to remind you that on the bottom right-hand side of your screen, you can see the microphone is set up. We do expect that we are going to have Governor Abbott speaking in a matter of moments. He is there in Hunt, which is the location for Camp Mystic, where sadly 5 young girls, 5 campers are still missing, along with 1 counselor. So again, Governor Abbott will be speaking here in just a matter of moments, so we'll bring that to you in full as well. But for now, do want to pop that audio right back up on this aerial tour.
Looks like that guy was stuck. He was waving. His truck was off the road. Hey, that guy that was stuck. So we don't have Freeman. They wouldn't do a DPS with us. Yeah, tell them there's a guy stuck on a little roadway in a truck. Looked like he got pushed off the road. About a quarter of a mile west of the Hunt store.
And you are watching some of the video coming in. This is being fed here by our Fox 7 Austin team. It's raw video of that aerial tour that they did take a short time ago here with Governor Greg Abbott, who, as you can see there on the bottom right-hand side of your screen, is expected to speak in a matter of moments. The second we see him at that podium, we are going to make sure to bring that to you in full on Live Now from Fox, but we know he is speaking there over in Hunt. That is where Camp Mystic is located. Now, if you're not too familiar with all of the latest information, I do want to keep you updated. As you can see some of that information there on the left-hand side of your screen. The death toll from that flooding now reaching 109, with more than a dozen people still considered to be missing. Most of the deaths were in Kerr County. That's where you're taking that aerial tour right there, where at least 87 people were killed, including 30 children. Deaths were also reported there in other counties, as well as Travis, Kendall, Burnett, Williamson, and Tom Green. At least 5 young girls from that Christian summer camp, Camp Mystic in Kerr County, are still missing, along with a counselor. That is according to officials in that area. 10 people are also unaccounted for in Travis County, along with 1 person over in Williamson and another in Burnett. Over the weekend, emergency officials do say that they performed more than 850 rescues, and that number since has gone up quite a bit. So we are waiting on an update from officials as far as that goes. Now, Texas Governor Greg Abbott did take this aerial tour here, and President Trump is expected to visit the area impacted by flooding later this week. And according to Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, that's expected to happen on Friday. The president did sign a major disaster declaration for relief. Again, you're looking at that aerial video in the live feed that is coming in from Fox 7 Austin. Right now, we are going to up the audio here and listen back in to Governor Abbott.
We're able to see it from the air. We were able to quickly contact people on the ground to go to his rescue to make sure his challenges were addressed. Good news for him, he was outside of his vehicle, standing up, didn't appear to be in any serious physical harm, but his truck looked like it was in danger. And it's an example of why the danger persists still here, even though the water's down. It's also an example of why we have to maintain aerial overview this area 24/7, because we were able to see and respond to something immediately because we were in the air. It's going to take a long time on the ground to come across something like that. Hey, Governor, my previous question, we've got a lot of personnel in San Antonio and Jones Bank. Joint Base San Antonio. I'd like to see some of those boots on the ground out here. What the Trump administration has done and what Chris and them have done is to surge people who have experience in dealing with challenges like this. For example, when Chrissy Nome was here with us, saw what was needed, she made a phone call to surge and response teams and got them here in less than 24 hours. And they are trained at this type of operation. What we've done, whether it be the resources provided by the Trump administration, by the state of Texas, or the local level, we've combined resources to make sure that we are covering every square inch of the land. And as they continue to cross a certain area of land, they mark it off in a matrix, knowing that area has been covered. Doesn't mean they're not going to go back and cover it again. They're just making sure they check the box as they go down the stream on the first, second, and third trips down there, knowing that things constantly change on that river. But we have air and ground resources that are needed, and we're thankful not only for the Trump administration, but I've been contacted by so many states, and other governors have either already sent or have on the way to Texas their own search and rescue teams to assist in this effort. Hold on a second. Is this the river right here? So guys, this is upstream from Camp Mystic. Yeah, he said we're upstream on the south. 4,800 feet is the MQ-9 Reaper remotely piloted aircraft. It is flying from probably around Comfort all the way up through Hunt up in these areas. And it's, you know, a persistent eye in the sky over all this land. And then what the governor was saying about other states moving, it usually comes up to you by about 2 o'clock. It launches in the morning because we don't have enough crews. So in North Dakota, we're working with North Dakota right now to see if we can bring on one of their crews. You know, what will happen is that that airplane's in orbit, they will switch control from Houston, our guys, to North Dakota. They'll pick up the feed and they'll fly it through a satellite so it can stay up over this area longer. Has that eye in the sky spotted anything that triggered a rescue or a recovery? I don't have that information, but it's basically, you know, helping guide our SAR guys, but I don't have that information. And this is another reason why we don't need personal drones in the air. We're flying low. We're looking for people. We're looking for helping.
All right, it does look like that is the end of the feed. But again, that was a raw feed coming in from our Fox 7 Austin team as they were flying along with Governor Greg Abbott. We also know that there is going to be a news conference here in Hunt, Texas in just a matter of moments. It was slated for 3 p.m. Central, which is 4 p.m. Eastern. That was about 13 minutes ago, but we do expect that this should begin shortly. And once it does, we are going to bring it to you in full right here on Live Now from Fox, as we always do. Do want to pop up this image here on your screen, as we do have a couple showing the area where Governor Abbott will be speaking. As you can see, the microphones are all set up and ready to go. They are putting up a Texas flag there, and you can see the sign that does say Hunt Strong. Again, we'll bring this to you once it does get underway in just a matter of moments. For now, I do want to head to a quick 2-minute commercial break. 4:14 on the East Coast and 1:14 on the West Coast. My name is Josh Breslow, and you're watching Live Now from Fox. We'll be right back. Welcome back here on Live Now from Fox. It is 4:16 on the East Coast and 1:16 on the West Coast. My name is Josh Breslow, and I've been here for the past hour or so to bring you all of your top stories and live events from across the country and across the world. Right now, as you can see here, we are awaiting that news conference with Texas Governor Greg Abbott after that aerial tour that he took with our Fox 7 Austin team As you can see right there, they do have the sign up that says Hunt Strong and the Texas flag hanging overhead. We do expect that Governor Greg Abbott will approach the podium there in just a matter of moments and be making comments here. Again, this is in Hunt, which specifically is where Camp Mystic is located, and that was unfortunately that camp that we have covered, where at this point 5 girls are still believed to be missing and a counselor. As you can see, those final preparations are underway at this point for that news conference. I do want to check in with some of our other teams right now. We do have our Fox Houston team that has been on the ground, and they're gathering the latest out of Burnett County. Take a listen.
Well, we have a heartbreaking update here in Burnett County. Authorities just confirmed they have recovered a 5th body. So there have now been 5 fatalities in this area. They have recovered the body of William Venus Sr. He was driving along the bridge here early Saturday morning along Hamilton Creek when the creek overflowed and he was swept away by floodwaters. Yesterday, we spoke with his son who traveled in from Maryland to help authorities search for his dad, and we have learned he has not survived. We talked to the son yesterday before he learned the tragic news about his dad's passing.
At the time when he saw the water, he said he didn't think he was going to make it. I had never heard him talk like that before. So I'm not, best case scenario, he's saying, oh, maybe I'm not going to make it home, or worst case, I'm not going to make it at all. When I heard that, just hearing his tone and hearing that he was actually scared for once, I kind of broke. I broke.
Now, we also learned from authorities they have recovered the body of the missing 17-year-old girl. The girl's mom tells me the other day that they were leaving for a family trip when they drove over a bridge that collapsed into Cow Creek. Now, they were able to get out of the van, her husband, son, daughters, and their kid's friend, and they were able to make it to shore safely except for her 17-year-old daughter. And we just learned that her body has been recovered. Now, authorities are still looking for the missing local volunteer fire chief. The Marble Falls volunteer fire chief, Michael Phillips, is still missing. He went missing after responding to a water rescue call along Cow Creek early Saturday morning. He was swept away by floodwaters, and the search for him continues. We are checking in with local authorities to get updates.
And that right there was our Fox Houston team. Again, we do have crews from all over our Texas affiliates there that are over in the areas impacted in Central Texas. Again, you are looking at the final preparations that are underway over in Hunt, as we expect to hear from Governor Greg Abbott in just a matter of moments. In the meantime, we are checking in live with our crews out there as well, and I do want to bring in meteorologist Haley Meyer with Fox Weather. She is over right now in Center Point, Texas. That is in Kerr County, an area that was hit very hard. Haley, thank you so much for being here. And you can see folks are really doing everything they can at this point to recover.
Definitely, Josh. I mean, this area looked totally different, I would say, a few hours ago. So many crews came in and cleaned up all the debris that's been out. Obviously, they still have a long ways to go. It'll take probably a few more weeks before we get the big pieces out. They have somebody that's coming in to get rid of some of the RVs that got washed away. This was actually an old RV park called Guadalupe Keys. 2 wonderful people own it. One of them is a veteran from Vietnam, and he said that this was their little slice of paradise. They wanted to share it with people in their retirement. Really heartbreaking to see. They said they got it just a few years ago, and then all of this happens. I did want to just have everybody who's watching just take in what is behind me. I mean, so many trees, which is a staple of this region of Texas. They're called bald cypress trees, and they line the entire Guadalupe River. And the fact that it's completely barren is something that makes me, as a native Texan, take a pause, because it's just not the landscape that I once knew. Meteorologically speaking, we have an area that has a high drainage density here in the Texas Hill Country. Essentially, what that means is water pools into this bigger river basin in a matter of an instant, which is why water rose over 20 feet in some areas, close to 30 feet in others, in just a 24-hour time span, or 45 minutes rather, and then receded within that 24 hours. But truly incredible to see the devastation. Now, it's not just here in Center Point. I mean, all down the Guadalupe River looks just like this. And so we're obviously focusing here, but Kerrville is one that you mentioned. We also had Hunt, where Camp Mystic was at as well, just near that town of Hunt. So many smaller youth camps, over probably 20, close to 50 in this area alone, because of how magical the Guadalupe River is over the summer. And so the fact that it brought chaos over the July 4th morning is truly heartbreaking to see. The Guadalupe River right now is sitting a little bit above where its natural state is. We're now at about 2.5 feet above that average, but we're no longer in flood stage. And for now, we have seen mostly clear skies. Obviously got some upper level cirrus clouds here. Chances for some scattered showers and thunderstorms are always a possibility for the Texas Hill Country this time of year. It's just sort of par for the course when it comes to that daytime heating. We haven't seen it here in Center Point. We didn't see it yesterday when we were out in Kerrville. So the good news is there, while we did have some lower lying concerns for flash floods, just yesterday those expired at 7 o'clock, and we're not expecting that to rise up again. But the question becomes is, when can people come back? Will they be able to celebrate July 4th holiday here? And a lot of folks in the area are saying that that's their goal. July 4th of next year, they want to have this place thriving again. Now, one couple that I spoke with, they brought their entire family out here to come and support this region. She's a local chef not too far away. They packed up the family over the weekend and came down here. Truly remarkable to hear their story. Take a listen.
We had the most beautiful trees. That was what brought us to buy the property to begin with. It was so beautiful with the grass and the ground covers and all the trees. And that's why we could accommodate so many campers and RVs, was because it was so beautifully shaded.
So that was actually one of the owners of this RV park, and she was saying that the trees were the reason why they purchased this set of property. And all their GoFundMes that they have going, they're going to take all of that money and put it back into replanting and repopulating the tree landscape that typically is here along the Guadalupe River. So again, a long way to go, but the Texan spirit is high in their recovery efforts. Back to you, Josh.
All right, Haley Meyer there at Fox Weather. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. And obviously, it's going to be a long process. Our prayers, our thoughts are with the people there in Hill Country. Thank you again. And I do want to remind you that you can watch Fox Weather everywhere that you do stream live now from Fox. It's always on, always free at foxweather.tv. You can also download the Fox Weather app. Just head to the App Store, Google Play Store, type in Fox Weather and hit that download button. They'll send you alerts anytime you have a watch, warning anything of that nature happening in your area. And you will also be able to keep an eye on storms like this with their radar. Again, always on, always free, foxweather.tv. We are keeping an eye here as they make final preparations for this news conference with Governor Greg Abbott after he took that aerial tour with our Fox 7 Austin team showing the flood damage. As you can see, they are making those final preparations with the microphones, getting everything together. And then we should see Governor Abbott in just a matter of moments here. We're going to bring you his comments in full right here on Live Now from Fox. For now, let's head to a quick 2-minute break, but a lot more news coming up in just a few. Welcome back here on Live Now from Fox, 427 on the East Coast and 127 on the West Coast. My name is Josh Breslow, and I've been here for the past 90 minutes or so to bring you all of your top stories, live events, and breaking news. Do want to pop this up on your screen as, again, final preparations are getting underway for this Governor Greg Abbott news conference that will happen over in Hunt, Texas. As they zoom out, you'll be able to see that there is actually a Texas flag that is hanging from that building, and it does say Hunt Strong. Again, those final preps underway, so the second we see Governor Abbott start speaking, we will bring that to you here in full on Live Now from Fox. In the meantime, today we are hearing for the first time from Texas Congressman August Pfluger, who said that one of his daughters walked through almost knee-deep water to get to safety at Camp Mystic during all of that flash flooding. He spoke of it earlier here with Fox News, and I do want to play that for you now.
This is his first TV interview since he reunited with his daughters. They were attending Camp Mystic, and thank you so much for being here. And I'm sorry for what you've been through. Let's take people through your initial contact. How did you first learn that there was this event happening at the camp?
Well, Dana, thanks for having me. And let me just say that we're grieving, that many families across Texas are grieving, that we are continuing to pray for those who have lost their daughters and those who are still searching for their daughters. And I think it's really important that we come together. That's what Texans do. You know, we got notification early that there really through a network of moms that there had been pretty severe flooding. Nobody really knew the severity of what that meant because, you know, the damage that we've seen it's unimaginable. It happens so quickly. But as those, text messages started happening, there was very little contact because power was out at the camp. This wall of water literally destroyed everything in its path. So the communication came very, very slowly. But what I will say is the Texas Department of Emergency Management, Nim Kidd, his team, and all the first responders were immediately on this. And I cannot praise them enough. But I did speak with many of those emergency responders, got them in touch with the camp so that they could start, that process of rescue. But the fear that was going on in the camp from the campers, and we've now learned that through talking to my daughters, and so many that were along the river. It's unimaginable what they had to go through, and just to have